Former AEW Women's World Champion Saraya's contract with All Elite Wrestling is reportedly set to expire next month. Could the former WWE superstar be set to leave AEW? We'll let you know the details on that. Plus, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a strap match has been confirmed for WWE Bash in Berlin. The storyline involving World Heavyweight Champion Gunther and Randy Orton continues ahead of their big world title match at Bash in Berlin. Pat McAfee called his last Raw until Raw moves to Netflix last night. He will be returning in January of 2025. Braun Breaker announces a tournament to crown a new number one contender for the Intercontinental Championship. The Judgment Day, at least the new version of it, attacks the Terror Twins last night on Raw. Braun Strowman returns on Raw and confronts Big Bronson Reed. The Wyatt Six beat down American Made again, and Bo Dallas / Uncle Howdy will be wrestling his first match in 5 years next week on Raw. The Women's Tag Team Championships stay with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. An update on more teasers when it comes to a possible split of the New Day last night on Raw. We got the ratings for Friday's edition of Smackdown as well as AEW Rampage on TNT. Sheamus is going to be a celebrity guest picker for ESPN College Game Day in August, and Bret Hart details his punch on Vince McMahon back in the 1990s and says the former WWE chairman can rot in hell. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with a possible departure from All Elite Wrestling, that being former AEW Women's World Champion Saraya. Now, Saraya, formerly known as Paige in WWE, has held world titles in All Elite Wrestling, WWE, and NXT. However, within a few months, she could end up on the free agent market, sources have told Fightful. Now, Fightful Select has learned that the Fighting With My Family Inspirations deal with AEW extends until at least September, where there were option years, but instead something else is likely on the table. Now, the nature of the option years has been up for debate internally, as sources, according to Fightful, claim that each side had these optional years. However, Fightful can confirm the two sides have at least been in talks regarding extending the current deal for a year, whether it be with a new contract or the option being exercised. Of course, Saraya became the AEW Women's World Champion at All In last year, but lost the championship to Hikaru Shida just a few weeks later. She was forced into retirement for nearly 5 years due to a neck injury. Saraya noted in 2022 that during a conversation with Triple H upon her departure, the door was left open and it was the previous regime's decision to not retain her. While Saraya doesn't officially have a match at AEW All In this weekend, she is planned for the show. She's scheduled to compete for the AEW Women's World Championship on Wednesday on Dynamite as well. So let me know what you think is going to happen when it comes to the future of Saraya in the comments section below. Now, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, their storyline continued last night on Monday Night Raw, a week after whipping Drew McIntyre with his own bout on Raw, giving him the idea for their upcoming match at Bash in Berlin. CM Punk hit the ring carrying a leather strap and announced to the Fort Lauderdale crowd that he talked to Raw General Manager Adam Pearce, and unless McIntyre was against the stipulation, that showdown would indeed be a strap match at Bash in Berlin. McIntyre quickly came out to the stage and accepted Punk's challenge before saying he couldn't wait that long and wanted to throw down with Punk right then and there, before recalling several of their previous encounters and Punk's antics therein, which gave him pause. Punk offered to willingly hand over the strap to McIntyre if he agreed to return the bracelet that he stole from him, to which McIntyre simply said no, making a reference to both former WWE Divas champion AJ Lee as well as Punk's dog Larry, saying that symbolically those two were happier with him than they'd ever be with Punk. The segment ended with Punk saying that in the match, McIntyre should be concerned of being attached to Punk rather than the other way around. So that match is now confirmed for Bash in Berlin. Now, certainly a line that got quite a few people talking last night was from CM Punk, referring to, again, who he kind of was and who he could be compared to. Now, during the August 19th episode of Raw, Punk addressed the significance of the bracelet, saying, quote, "When fans hand me bracelets that they took time to make, maybe insignificant to other people, maybe a Taylor Swift thing, but let's face it, I'm Taylor Swift for men." Let me know your thoughts on that one in the comment section below. Now, Gunther, he's going to, of course, be defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. And the Viper kicked off last night's edition of Raw by welcoming fans to the show and stating that he will be the World Heavyweight Champion the next time he opens the broadcast. Gunther quickly interrupted Orton and marched down to the ring. The ring general told Orton to celebrate his RKO from the August 12 edition of Raw, noting that it will be the only thing he gets to celebrate. Gunther went a step further and claimed that Orton will never hit an RKO on him again. Gunther continued to decimate Orton, saying that he will expose him for being a one-trick pony at Bash in Berlin. After both men squared up for a fight, Ludwig Kaiser ran to the ring and attacked Orton from behind. Moments later, Gunther ended the segment by nailing Orton with a massive lariat. Now, this led to a match later on in the evening. As I mentioned, this is after this segment happened earlier on. Ludwig Kaiser obviously attacked Randy Orton. Orton went on to face Kaiser in the main event. Gunther was at ringside for the match and his presence distracted Orton. Kaiser capitalized and targeted Orton's leg, but the former world champion showed his veteran expertise and continued to control the match. In the end, the Viper struck with an RKO that put Kaiser down for the count. Gunther then got in the ring and Orton brawled with him. The two kept fighting as Raw went off the air. Now, a bit of an update when it comes to Pat McAfee's status with WWE. There's been a bit of confusion recently, of course, him returning to College Game Day. What does that mean when it comes to him commentating on Monday Night Raw? Now, Pat McAfee's show last night was the last one that he's going to be doing with WWE, but not for too long. On the August 19th episode of Raw, Raw commentator Pat McAfee announced that Monday's episode of Raw would be his final episode for a while as the football season was starting, so he would be returning to College Game Day. McAfee's departure was highlighted during the August 19th episode of the Red Brand as he was featured in a video package. McAfee expressed his gratitude for being a part of WWE, and he also looked forward to college football season. He said that being with WWE was a dream come true. Michael Cole then confirmed that McAfee would return to Raw when the show moved to Netflix in January of next year. Joe Tessitore is set to join the Raw commentary team on the September 2nd episode of Raw. Michael Cole will then move to SmackDown, but it is expected that those commentary teams will be shaken up once again once the Red Brand moves to Netflix at the beginning of next year. Now, Braun Breaker, of course, he's the Intercontinental Champion, and we're going to find out who is going to be the next challenger for the champ. After overcoming Sami Zayn in a critically acclaimed 2 out of 3 Falls match on the August 12th edition of Monday Night Raw, the still Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker has his eyes already peeled for his next challenger. Luckily for Breaker, his search will be expedited, as he said on Monday's Raw that a tournament begins next week to determine the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental Championship. Breaker unveiled the news in a backstage interview, but did not disclose any further details such as confirmed individuals, number of rounds, or timeline of matches, though Jey Uso later announced that he would be involved in the tournament. The tournament is currently slated to begin on the Red Brand's go-home show before Bash in Berlin. Given the short notice, it's unlikely that Breaker's next opponent will be determined prior to the Germany-based PLE. As of this recording, Breaker has been the Intercontinental Champion for 16 days after dethroning fan favourite Sami Zayn at SummerSlam. Breaker has no defences with the Intercontinental Championship beside that 2 out of 3 Falls match that we mentioned on the August 12th edition of Monday Night Raw. Now, the Judgment Day, of course, their storyline with the Terror Twins continued last night on Monday Night Raw, and the new Judgment Day has made quite a statement. On the August 19th episode of Raw, Dominic Mysterio challenged Damian Priest to face him in a singles match before they clash in tag team action at Bash in Berlin. However, it was a trap, as Mysterio's stablemates in the new Judgment Day attacked Priest. Priest fought off Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Carlito. When Rhea Ripley arrived and rocked Dominic with a headbutt, it seemed like he was doomed. However, WWE Women's World Champion Liv Morgan arrived and attacked Ripley. She targeted Ripley's recently injured shoulder. The new Judgment Day proceeded to gang up on Priest, while Morgan also dropped Ripley with Oblivion. Backstage, Finn Balor said that the beatdown was just a taste of what would happen to Priest and Ripley at Bash in Berlin. The group mocked Ripley and Priest, and Morgan said she would make Ripley her bitch at Bash in Berlin. Now, last night we saw the return of Braun Strowman to Monday Night Raw after picking up a victory over The Miz on the August 19th edition of the show. Big Bronson Reed quickly began to climb to the top rope again with the intention of crushing the Awesome One with another tsunami. Reed was stopped dead in his tracks, though, as Braun Strowman made his return to Raw by storming to the ring to confront Reed face to face. Before much could happen between Strowman and Reed, the cameras cut away to show a different backstage segment. This was Strowman's first appearance on Raw in over a month, as the monster of all monsters last wrestled on the July 15 edition of the show in a bout against Damian Priest. Of course, we get any details as to when this match could happen between the two giant WWE superstars, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. And the Wyatt Six, their storyline with American Made continued last night on Raw. American Made, now officially featuring Ivy Nile, didn't escape the wrath of the Wyatt Six when Nile took on Alpha Academy's Maxine Dupree, and the segment on Raw ended with the spooky faction standing over Chad Gable once more. Backstage before the match, Gable welcomed Nile and said that American Made was a real family. Nile said she gave Dupree a chance, but in the end she got exactly what was coming to her. Gable and the Creed brothers didn't follow Nile out to the ring for her match, and Dupree tried to get the jump on her opponent, hitting a drop kick and throwing her into the barricade multiple times. The bell never rung to start the match, even when Dupree got Nile back into the ring after throwing her over the announce desk. Nile battled back with a flurry of offensive moves before the lights slowly went out in the arena and smoke began to fill the ring. Nikki Cross as Abby the Witch appeared in the ring to stare down Nile, and Gable and the Creeds ran out to protect her. The rest of the Wyatt Six, sans Uncle Howdy initially, appeared on the ring apron, and Cross jumped Nile while American Made's backs were turned. The Wyatt Six started beating down the men until Gable was left alone in the middle of the ring as he was staring down Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis and Joe Gacy. Howdy appeared from behind and hit a Sister Abigail on Gable in the middle of the ring. Now, to develop on this, well, it looks like Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, is going to be wrestling a match. Gable will get his chance at comeuppance with a singles match between he and Uncle Howdy announced for next week's episode. Of course, this is going to be his first match, Bo Dallas's, in quite some time. While we'd previously seen a six-man tag team match between the trio of Gacy, Loomis and Rowan against Gable and the Creeds, and have sporadically seen Howdy, aka Bo Dallas, as well as Cross get physical since the Sixth debut, this will mark the first match of any sort for the real-life Taylor Rotunda since November 2019. At a WWE live event in Zurich, Switzerland, and the first ever match featuring Uncle Howdy directly competing. Now, Howdy did involve himself in the Bray Wyatt LA Knight Mountain Dew Pitch Black match at the 2023 Royal Rumble, playing a huge part in the finish by landing an elbow drop from high above onto a piece of the set onto Knight, but it wasn't an actual competitor in the match. Rotunda has not been involved in a televised match since an episode of Raw in August of 2019. Now, the Women's Tag Team Championships are staying where they are for now. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire are still the Women's Tag Team Champions after successfully defending their gold in triple threat action against Damage Control's Io Sky and Kairi Sane and Pure Fusion Collective Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark on Raw. The pair won the titles at Clash at the Castle in their native Scotland and have now held on to them for more than 60 days. It was Dawn who took advantage of Baszler and snuck in to score a victory at the Premium Live event, winning the championships from Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, and ultimately, it was Dawn who did something similar Monday night to keep the belts around the waist of herself and her partner. So still, they are going to be the Women's Tag Team Champions. Now, when it comes to what's going to be happening next, Dawn and Fire will go on to team with Blair Davenport and take on Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill and Naomi in six-woman tag team action this Friday night on SmackDown. Now, what's going on with the New Day? Are they going to be splitting up? Of course, they're probably the longest tenured faction in modern WWE history, but there was a development in the ongoing saga between the New Day members Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods on last night's Monday Night Raw. In recent weeks, Kofi Kingston has brought in Odyssey Jones as backup for the New Day in their feud against the Final Testament. However, Woods wasn't particularly receptive to Jones coming in, as Kingston hadn't told Woods about it in advance. Woods voiced his concerns last night before their six-man tag team match, saying he felt like Kingston was replacing Big E and Woods doesn't want to do that. Kingston seemed to assure Woods that that wasn't the case, but things didn't go entirely smoothly during their later match. With Kingston, Woods and Jones teaming together against Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain, there was one particular moment in the match that caused a stir. When Kofi Kingston was down and needed to make a tag during the course of the match, he tagged in Odyssey Jones instead of Xavier Woods, and in that moment it was clear that Woods was unhappy with the sight, as you can see on the screen team right now. In the end, Odyssey Jones picked up the pinfall victory, and the New Day and Jones trio did manage to secure the win, but it looks like this rumbling of maybe discontent continues to operate in the New Day. What do you think happens with this? Let me know your thoughts about that one too. Now let's talk about the ratings for Friday's edition of SmackDown on Fox. Now, SummerSlam may be gone, but the interest in WWE is still palpable coming out of the summer extravaganza. A big reason for that is the return of Roman Reigns, who appeared at SummerSlam to keep Solo Sikoa from winning the undisputed WWE Championship, and was on hand for SmackDown last week, fighting off Sikoa and the Bloodline, who he set out to destroy in the wake of Sikoa usurping the Bloodline during Reigns' absence. So far, Reigns' return has proved to be a big mover when it comes to WWE's ratings on Friday nights. This past Friday night was seemingly no different. However, there were some dips in some key metrics. WrestleNomics reports that SmackDown drew 2.252 million total viewers and a 0.16 in the 18 to 49. Now, in total viewership, the numbers were actually down from the previous week, albeit barely, falling 1% from last week's 2.269 million viewers. So pretty much average and same across the board as it was for the last few weeks. The 18 to 49 was also down, dropping 5% from a 0.64. Both numbers were up over the 4-week average, however, with total viewership and the 18 to 49 both rising 2%, indicating Friday's show still had strong interest. Of course, this month may have been a bit down because of the Olympic coverage that has now ended. Things were largely positive for SmackDown year over year as well. Friday's total viewership was down compared to Q3 of 2023, but only slightly at 3%, while there was no change compared to viewership in August 2023. Similarly, the 18 to 49 was steady as well compared to the 2023 Q3 average and August 2023. In more good news, SmackDown continued its run atop of the 18 to 49 on Fridays, finishing number 1 for the night. Now let's also talk about the ratings for AEW's presentation on Friday, that being AEW Rampage on TNT. Now the Friday, August 16 episode of AEW Rampage averaged 295,000 viewers on TNT, which is up over 34% from the previous week. It's the best audience total for a show since July 26. Rampage drew a 0.10 rating in the 18 to 49. That's up 11.1% from last week and ties the highest rating the show has done in that category since July 12. For the first time in nearly a month, Rampage did not face competition from the Olympics, with the summer 2024 event now over. As compared to the same week in 2023, though, Rampage's overall audience was down 29.1%, while its 18 to 49 rating was down 23.1%. It's the 12th week out of the last 13 that Rampage had a year-over-year decline in total viewers. Now, Sheamus, he's going to be on College Game Day, the same broadcast program that Pat McAfee's going to be involved in, and Sheamus heading back to his native land of Ireland. On Monday's Raw, it was announced that Sheamus would join the crew of ESPN's College Game Day as the celebrity guest picker on Saturday, August 24th. ESPN College Game Day will emanate from Dublin, Ireland. Pat McAfee will also be a part of the broadcast. Sheamus could have some busy Saturdays as he's been invited to Notre Dame's Irish Wear Green game on September 28th. ESPN College Game Day will be in Dublin for Georgia Tech versus Florida State and the annual Erling Gis College Football Classic. So Sheamus is going to be a very busy man. And finally, Bret Hart, he's spoken once again about the time he punched Vince McMahon in the face after the Montreal Screwjob back in 1997. And WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart says he has no regrets over punching Vince McMahon following Survivor Series 1997 and the Montreal Screwjob. Speaking with the Attitude Era podcast, the Hitman made his views on McMahon abundantly clear. Here's what he had to say.
I didn't charge him or anything. We actually walked up to each other and locked up like a wrestling match. And then I knocked him out with one punch, and it was the greatest punch I ever threw. It was an absolutely beautiful uppercut right between his arms, and I lifted him about a foot off the ground, broke my hand, but it was the sweetest punch I ever threw, and I wouldn't change anything about it. And Vince McMahon can rot now.
Vince McMahon can rot in hell is the words of Bret Hart there. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.